It's time for Rabbi Minkowicz's Weekly Torah Lesson, a place where life's most difficult questions are answered. Here with his spiritual perspective and insight, Rabbi Minkowicz.
Welcome to this week's Torah lesson. This week's Torah portion is Parsha PEKUDEI. The question of the week is, how should you treat a rebellious person? So in this week's Torah portion, Parsha PEKUDEI, the Torah portion begins and tells us, Eile PEKUDEI HaMishkan. This is the accounting of the Mishkan, Mishkan Ha'edus, the Mishkan of testimony. So Rashi right away asks the question, why should it say Mishkan twice? We know every single word in the Torah is specific. There's no extra letter, there's no extra word. So here you have the word Mishkan, which is referring to the tabernacle twice. Why does it say it twice? So Rashi says, you know why it says twice? It's to hint us about the two destructions, that each temple was going to be destroyed for the sins of the Jewish people. That's why it says the Mishkan twice. The Rebbe asks a simple question. We're building the temple. We're building the tabernacle. So it says it twice. Great, but why do you give an example of the destruction? You couldn't have found something more positive? You know, it's because of making a better dwelling place to God, and so on and so forth. Why do you bring up the destruction? Why do you bring up the negativity? So the Rebbe says, here if you give a look closely at Rashi, Rashi's giving us a very, very powerful lesson, and that is as follows. When he speaks about the destruction of the temple, so what does he say? What does Rashi say? This is the reason why he says it twice, for the destruction of the temple, for the sins of the Jewish people. In other words, what Rashi's pointing out, the way the Rebbe explains it, is that the temple itself is not destroyed. There was no destruction in the temple itself. The temple we still have. What we have, unfortunately, is the sin of the Jewish people that caused the temple to be taken away from us. But the temple is still fully intact. Both temples are fully intact. What we have, unfortunately, is because of the sin of the Jewish people, therefore we don't have the temple with us. So in other words, Rebbe brings out that the Torah is trying to teach us is that even when, unfortunately, we lost the temple because of our sins, but we did not really lose the temple because we always have a connection to the Mishkan and to the Beis HaMikdash. Because the fact is, you see, till today, we study about the Mishkan, we study about the Mikdash. God teaches us about the Mishkan and the Mikdash. Why? Because even though we sinned, but the Mishkan was really never taken away from us. So there he brings out, here's a powerful lesson. That, in other words, let's learn from God. How does God treat us when we sinned? So even though we sinned, then yes, we're not worthy to having the Mishkan, but we still really have the connection with the Mishkan we never lost. And the God never basically walked away from us, and he kept the connection alive. So to answer the question, how should you treat someone that's rebellious? Just like God treats us. Keep the connection alive, and keep the friendship, a real friendship, even when the person rebels. This week's Torah lesson is dedicated to the memory of Baruch ben Aryeh Leib and Shlomo Ben Yosef. May their souls be elevated for the Torah we're studying in their memory. Thanks so much for joining us for our weekly Torah lesson. For more information about Chabad and a regular schedule of classes, please see our website.